Welcome to the CBIA BizCast. I'm your host, Ali Warshavsky, and today on our podcast, we are lucky to be joined with CEO of MOVIA Robotics, Jean Pierre Bolat. He has developed a way for robotics to educate children with autism, and also we'll go into it a little bit later, but how to track their progress with some of these robots. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Ali. It's a real pleasure to be here.
I was reading about your background and I just find it absolutely fascinating and would love to know how you got where you are, but it looked like you were a retired naval officer, you were working in cybersecurity, and now you're in a career using robotics to help children. How did you get there?
Yeah, thank you. I was born and raised in Wallingford, Connecticut, and went to the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. After I graduated, I served in the Navy 20 years, flying planes, and served all over the world. After my retirement from the Navy, I started working in IT in Tokyo, Japan, and then made my way back here to Connecticut about 10 years ago, and got into a lot of different things, defense industry, and started some startup companies in cybersecurity.
How long were you in Tokyo for?
Oh, a total of about 13 years, but most of that was while I was in the Navy, and then about 3 years as a retired civilian.
Wow, that's really cool that you got to see a way another part of the world works and operates. And when did you join MOVIA?
I joined about 3.5 years ago, but I had met Tim Gifford, the founder, in Hartford business circles years before that, as he was developing his technology and starting the company up. And I was always intrigued by what he was doing, especially because I have a son who was on the autism spectrum.
And I read, so he founded it, and it was also a partnership with UConn that really helped to get off the ground.
Yeah, that's right. So he started his research while he was at UConn, and got an NIH grant from the National Institutes of Health. And the purpose was to figure out whether or not robot-assisted instruction actually worked and had efficacy. And he proved that it did. So then decided to take it out of the lab and put it into the classrooms.
Now, you just said the words robot-assisted instruction systems, I believe is what you fully call them. What exactly is that for someone like me who doesn't really know those fancy words?
Sure. So everybody knows what a robot is. So what we do is we use commercial off-the-shelf robots that are attractive to kids, and especially to kids on the autism spectrum. And we use the robots as a delivery tool for instruction or for therapeutics. So the child develops a relationship, has discussions with the robots, they respect each other, and then the robot uses that rapport with the child to teach and to advance the child on therapeutic goals, educational goals, and other outcomes.
So, you say you had this robot in front of you, or a child has it, and they turn it on. What's an example of maybe their first few conversations? And is it really like a conversation between the two?
Yes, exactly. The first meeting, we always want to have, the child and the robot get to know each other. So the robot asks the child's name, the child answers the robot tells the child his name, and then they start a conversation together. And that builds that rapport. So then they do some movement activities together, they have a little discussion, and then they learn how to communicate together. And what we do is we have the child answer questions that the robot asks via a tablet. So the child can positively answer through a tablet, and that data of the child's answers is collected in a laptop computer.
And I know that you advertise that they help children with autism explore, develop confidence, and reduce anxiety. Three pretty different things. How does it accomplish each one? You kind of already touched on, like, questions and answers, getting them maybe to be more communicative, which is something that sometimes people with autism will struggle with. But how does it help them develop confidence? We'll start with that one.
Yeah, sure. When we all know that children with autism sometimes have challenges with their human-to-human interactions. So because of the robot is non-judgmental and it's a really safe space for this child, the child knows that it's a piece of technology, but there's no predetermined bias against the robot. So that allows the child to really open up a little bit more. So the child will explore and answer questions he may not answer with, his teacher or a parent, or go down avenues of learning that may not have been explored before. And it gives the child the confidence that he can make a mistake. He can say the wrong answer and the robot will positively guide him into the right direction. So it's a really wonderful, positive experience that boosts their confidence for success.
And then the other part was it reduce anxiety. I guess part of it would be obviously they don't have that fear of being scolded or made fun of for a wrong answer, but are there other ways that the robot can help reduce anxiety?
Yeah, we find not only with the children, and you just mentioned exactly, there's no fear, there's no judgment. So they have a wonderful, positive relationship that calms down the child. We've found that kids who may come into a classroom a little bit upset over something, they can sit down and open up to the robot, and the robot, just by the conversation or playing a game together, it reduces that child's anxiety. But it also helps with, teachers or therapists or parents as well, because they can allow the robot to do the heavy lifting of the interaction and sit back and really observe and assess the child.
So what's an example of a question it might ask a child?
Well, we've got, hundreds of different lessons and activities, so I can name off a bunch of them. But, one of the ones that's really been successful in several of our schools in the state is teaching a child to say hello and goodbye. So it's a role play scenario where the robot says, "Hello, Ali, how are you?" And then the child is offered the opportunity to respond. And then they go back and forth with, "Hello, how are you? Have a nice day. Goodbye, goodbye." So teaching that type of conversational skill.
Which is something that people take for granted, the ability to just say hello and goodbye and start a conversation. It could be very difficult for someone on the spectrum. You did mention that I believe you just said some schools and therapist office. I guess primarily, where are the robots being used? Are people taking them home? Can they purchase one for home use, or are they something where it's going to be more dedicated to a classroom setting?
Yeah, so when we went to market in 2019, we had our first product called the Teacher's Aid. And the Teacher's Aid was focused on being in the classroom to teach a group of kids or one-on-one with each child in the classroom. And then on our roadmap, we had what's called the Home Pal, which is the robot that we would provide to families, and so that families can use this technology as well. But then all of a sudden, COVID hit last year, and all the schools shut down. So we flipped our model and we directly marketed to the homes. And we have over 75 systems right now in homes of families that really were needing the supports. So that's working out very, very well. Our robots that are in homes all over the world, actually. So we have some in Australia, here in the United States, Canada, and England right now. And then the third product that we just launched recently is the TheraPal, and that is targeted for therapists to use for robot-assisted interventions.
Yeah, that is one of the questions I had, because I believe that's one of the ones that became registered with the FDA in October, correct?
That is correct.
One of the questions I had is, what does that mean for you to have something registered with the FDA? Does that help you? Certainly probably does not hurt you.
Yeah, so what we have done over the past year to year and a half was behind the scenes develop quality systems so that we could provide this through the medical prescriptions perhaps in the future. There have been several products out there on the market that have prescribable like tablet-based apps for children with ADD or ADHD. So we wanted to follow that pathway so that more families can have access to this wonderful therapeutic intervention. So the first step in that process is to register the product with the FDA. And now that it's registered and we have the systems in place, we're on the pathway to get FDA certification eventually.
That's great. And the TheraPal progress tracker, you said it's something therapists are used. And when I was reading about it, it said that it helps you learn more about what the children are using or how they're using the robots, correct? Like what type of data is it processing and recording for you so that you can proceed to help the child?
Yeah, the system is very sophisticated in its data collection. So the progress tracker collects all of the responses from the child that the child responds through the tablet. So the time of response, the right answers, wrong answers, how many times a child needs to ask for help, and all of that data is recorded. We also afford the operator, the parent or the therapist or the teacher to indicate different log files of actions the child may be taking, attention the child is paying to the robot, or if the child is dysregulated or happy, very regulated. So all of that data is recorded in the progress tracker, and that is what a therapist can use to further assess the child's progress.
And we keep using the word child. These are made for children. Is there a specific age range that it should serve or that has been using it?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the product is that it really does work for any age range. We have targeted most of our lessons, activities, and games towards a cognitive age of 3 to the early teens. However, we have a lot of adults who are on the autism spectrum, but a cognitive age of maybe a 5th grader. So that the product works for that. We have 18-year-olds using it very effectively and learning, more than they ever did before. So it does work across a lot of age ranges.
So it seems that too, if the more severe, or I should say, where you are in the spectrum could determine when you're using it too. Like you said, if you're 25, but your cognitive behavioral behavior is of a 5th grader, it's good use for you. So it really depends on where you fall in the spectrum. Or are there lesson plans that might be better for children who are more high functioning, better at interacting, but still need a little bit of help in certain areas?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
You said that you joined because you had a son on the spectrum, correct? Has he been able to use this? Or if he hasn't, because I know that this is relatively new, what has your experience been? Do you feel like there's a lot of misconceptions around being on the spectrum?
Yeah, I think one of the missions of our company is to make life for those on the autism spectrum and with other special needs more inclusive. And it is a spectrum for a reason. There's a wide variety of what they would call high functioning or lower functioning individuals on the autism spectrum. My son is very high functioning, and he could have used this system when he was growing up, to help him with some social skills, perhaps. So that would have helped out. But as a matter of fact, we actually had my son working for us over the summer, translating our software and content into Japanese for the Japanese market.
Not an easy job. So he's clearly doing very well. I know that it is a product that can be used worldwide, but because you are based in Connecticut, Bristol is your headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Is it being used more in Connecticut? Are you guys looking to kind of push it out to more states and more countries, but the home base is here?
Yeah, so we started out in Connecticut. Our headquarters is in Bristol, and obviously we want to reach every single school district in Connecticut, and we've proven that model out really nicely. We're now really branching out heavily into Massachusetts. We just did our first delivery to Massachusetts last month, and we've got about 5 more school systems calling us in Massachusetts. We're in California. We're in a lot of different other school systems around the country. But our biggest client is the Department of Defense. We have over 145 systems in 40 DoD schools all around the world. So these are schools that are on U.S. military bases for deployed service members who have children with autism. They're using it in those elementary schools.
That's amazing. What is your dream for this company in 5 years?
Yeah, so obviously the dream is to have one of these systems into every family and school that needs it. So that's the goal, and that's the mission of our company. But one of the other visions that I have is I always ask the educators this question: what special needs student gets homework every night? And typically the answer is, well, not many. So if they have a robot in the classroom and the teacher runs a certain child through a lesson and he does better, that teacher can call mom at home and say, hey, run Johnny through that coins lesson again. And the reinforcement of that would bring the equity in the education that the typically developing kids get. We all get homework, and that reinforcement what we learn. Well, let's get some homework for these kids too, and get a robot in the school and in the home, and provide that great equity of education.
And probably makes it more manageable for the parent, because if parents learned anything over the past 2 years, it's very hard to juggle their child's academic career with their career, especially if they have special needs. And this would just be a little extra reinforcement, like you said, but also just take some of the pressure off of trying to explain things in ways that it's a little bit tougher, and we don't all know.
One of the things that differentiates us from any other company out there that's doing something like this is we are robot agnostic. So we use the best of breed robots that are out there. And right now our family, we have 4 great robots that are in our family. The tallest one is 3 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's a great one. The little kids love it. They give it a hug, and they really have a great respect, and it's great for group activities. Then we have a fully articulating one that's been a stalwart in the robotics community called the Now, and we have the cutest little one that we're deploying to homes mostly is the Home Pal, the Kebi robot. So it's about 1 foot tall.
Okay, so they're all have a presence to them. They're not like an action figure. And you did say that so if someone did have one, they connect their iPad to it. So even if someone's nonverbal, they'd be able to participate with the robot.
Exactly. The system that we provide has a laptop for the parent or the instructor or the therapist, the robot, and then a tablet. And so you're right. This works with nonverbal children. The only thing that we really need is for the child to have receptive language. They can listen. We've even had teachers use it with children that are blind, and they've been able to actually listen and work with the robot, and they love the sensory.
And this is probably a weird question for you, but something I was just thinking of, like, where are these? They're made in Bristol? I mean, because these are a specialized project. I don't see them being mass produced, right? Or is it a little bit of a slower process to put one of these together?
Yeah, so we buy robots from our partners. So we get the robots from robot manufacturers around the world. Okay. Most of our robots, they come from Taiwan, China, or Japan. And we actually have another one that is from Colorado. But obviously everything's sort of manufactured in China nowadays. So we partner with the robotics manufacturers and we bring the
Gotcha.
robots in. Then we build the system and the software. So we focus on the software, the human robot interaction, the delivery, and the content. So we have a team of special educators and therapists that write and review all of our content to make sure the delivery is up to the right standards.
So ballpark, how big is your team?
Right now, we have 21 full-time employees, plus several contractors and some part-timers.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and explain all of this to us. Because when we did come across your article about having some of the devices FDA approved, we just thought the product was so fascinating and we wanted to learn about more. So I just want to open up the floor to you if there's anything else you wanted to add about the robots, the company, or the people that you are working with right now to develop even more new and exciting products. The floor is yours.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And joining the CBIA has been is a highlight for us, really. So I want to thank you for this opportunity. And, love to talk to all of the member companies because we have programs that we've developed for companies who have employees that have children on the spectrum so that we can offer companies discounted rates so that they can ease the burden for their employees. So I'd love to talk to anybody out there, corporations who are looking to either put one in their community, in their local school, or to get a system for their employees to help out their employees in their wellness programs. Give us a shout. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, that is a great idea. Because there are so many big corporations in this area that that the statistics would show that at least one person has a child with autism spectrum disorder. And the good news is robots can't catch COVID. They don't spread it, right? So no risk there bringing one of those into your home.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again for joining us on the CBIA BizCast. You can listen and subscribe to our BizCast at cbia.com. You can also subscribe on Apple, YouTube, and SoundCloud. We'll see you next week.